Hey, Vantage Point Church, man, we wanted just to welcome you to this online kind of family meeting, and not having a space that we get to do things that's our own. We get to do things like this, and we call it a family meeting because, man, we get to come together and we get to talk about things that matter inside of our church, maybe things that we don't necessarily talk about on a Sunday morning, but are important for us to talk about as we move forward. I mean, you're going to be hearing things about how God is calling us into some new things, and just our heartbeats behind, the elders' heartbeats behind kind of this mission and this vision as God drives us and pushes us forward. One of the things that God has kind of challenged us with and kind of challenged me with to talk about as a church is, man, what does it look like for us to partner with God, partner with the church, partner with one another. Robbie preached on that just a couple weeks ago, where he talked about how the gospel calls us to walk arm in arm, linked, as partners together in this mission that God has called us to. And so partnership is a huge thing. When I think about my house, like in a family, like everybody's got their role. Everybody has their thing that they do. My kids unload the dishwasher. Brock takes out the trash. Carson picks up poop in the backyard. Like everybody has their thing that they're doing. And I think the same thing we need to understand happens inside of the church. God has given us all of you, all of these people. He's called us to come together for the purpose of partnering together in this mission that God has called us to do that. And so how do we partner? Like when you think about partnering, what does that even look like? Partnership looks like you just simply being there on a Sunday morning. Like you are coming and, Scripture tells us that we shouldn't forsake the gathering of the saints, right? Like that is part of us coming together as His body, partnering together. It's encouragement to us when we see you. It's encouragement to one another when you see each other. So you're partnering with each other in this mission. You're partnering with one another when you're serving, whether it's kids ministry or welcome team or kids, students, set up, tear down. All of these different ways are ways that you're partnering with us. Now, what we want to talk about specifically in this video is, what does it look like for us to partner from a financial side of things, right? So, and it's kind of the dreaded conversation. Nobody likes to talk about money, but we have to because Jesus did, and because God is calling us to do things that's, frankly, it's going to cost us money to be able to do it, and that's why God brings us together. That's why God has called us to all be a part of this, and so we want to talk about kind of some of the back end pieces to our budget. We hadn't done this a whole lot, kind of in this manner. People have questions, and we'll answer questions. But for the most part, you guys just kind of give faithfully. And I know sometimes it's hard to give and not really know what's happening with your finances. And we want to do our best to help you see how your money is being stewarded at our church, and how you are making an impact in our church, in our community, in one another's lives, because of your faithfulness. And so, real quick, I want to help you understand kind of what this video is not. This video is not us saying, "Hey, we're in a bad spot." In fact, we actually finished our 2023 budget at about $27,000 in the positive. I never know if that's black or red. I think it's black, right? The green sounds way better to me, right? But like we finished like $27,000 ahead of where we thought we were going to be, and that is because of your faithfulness. So this is not a video where we are begging you, right? Like we need your help, we need your money. So it is not that. It's also not a video where this is going to be the only time that we talk about this in 2024. One of my goals that I have is to be more upfront about this and talk about these kind of things, because I think they're really important for us to have. And I know when we talk about these and you understand, sometimes it's easier to go, man, God is calling me to be faithful, and this is what that looks like for me. So we aren't able to have everybody here today that has a say in how things are spent in the church or stewarding it in some different ways. But we do have some of our bigger ministries that are here. I'll be speaking to some of those other ones. But man, I'm gonna throw this to these guys over here, and we're gonna start with Robbie, who does our kids and our students. And here's what I want him to do for just a second. Robbie, what I want you to do, we've already been talking about this, is like I just want you to help people understand, like, man, this is what God is calling us to. Here's kind of my heartbeat behind just kids ministry, student ministry, some of the things that God's calling you to do, how their faithfulness is impacting your ministries.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll kick off with our kids. Man, I stepped into kind of the kids area, I guess, over a little bit over a year, a couple months now. If there's something that I've like gathered in this time of working mostly with our elementary kiddos, is that they can get it. Like, they can understand it. They can understand the gospel. They can understand what God is doing in their hearts and in their lives. And they ask big questions, and they ask big. They pray big. So I want you guys to first of all know that it's like we can sometimes underestimate our kids and what they can do. But they are just a part of the church as we are. And so on Sunday mornings, there's a lot we do, from babies all the way up to our elementary kids. Lots of things are there, like toys and Cheerios and diapers and rockers, little recliners that we bust out. There's a lot that is there because of y'all. Without you guys giving, none of that exists. So first, thank you for that, and thank you for your faithfulness to give to our kids, so that your kids can experience it. But I know some of y'all don't even have kids, but there is so much value there. Areas that, man, I'm looking forward to in this year and in growing. This past year we did SummerSlam. We were at Dustin's house, had a great time. It was the first year we got to do that. This year we're looking at growing that even more and improving that even more, doing a lot more for the kids, and just create some excitement there and fun. But one of the places we've actually expanded inside of our budget is to look at our kids space and see how we can make it more fun, more exciting, more engaging, more interactive, from top to bottom, from babies all the way up to our elementary. But know that is not just so it's fun and exciting. This is a chance for new families to come in and to see a ministry that's engaging their kids, and they stick because of it. And then they get to hear the gospel. These kids get to hear the gospel in an environment that's fun. I think sometimes we can discredit fun because it's not, the end-all, be-all. But our kids deserve to have fun. And so we're looking at how we can change the space and the environment to suit that. So that's a place we're super excited for this year inside of our kids ministry. And so, that's kind of the heartbeat of what we do. So thank you guys for providing for that, for our kiddos. As far as students go, I've been in students a little bit longer than in kids. And there's my heart is just so for these students to walk out of their high school time equipped and feeling empowered by the gospel to be now young adults. There's a scary stat that is like the most scary, terrifying thing you could ever tell a student pastor, and it's that 66%, which is a study done by Lifeway, 66% of students who walk out of high school leave church for at least the first year of college.
That's crazy.
It's terrifying. It's scary, and it's a challenge to me as someone who shepherds these kids or these students to equip them. And I have a big part in that. But the reality is you guys do too. It's not just me as their direct pastor that has the ultimate influence. I mean, I do have influence. I'm not going to discredit that. Sure. Our leaders have influence. I'm never going to discredit that. But you guys do too. You guys partnering financially actually makes a huge impact. We have events like D Now, which is coming up soon. Get signed up. We have, yeah, sorry, plug it real quick. And camp. Both are huge moments of discipleship and growth inside of our students. I don't know if y'all even know what D Now really looks like, but we get to go away for a weekend and we get to stay at host homes. This past year, we got to do something that we've never done before, and that is to bring in a speaker to communicate God's word that isn't me. They hear from me a lot. They hear from me every Wednesday. But D Now, we got to bring in a guy named Kyle to come and speak to these students, and it was incredible. And that's only possible because of you guys partnering. We also got to play knockerball, which is a lot of fun. If you don't know what that is, come find me. I can show you videos. It's hilarious. Tons of fun. You should probably do it at your next family event. But alongside of that, every Wednesday night, we get to meet in the Jones house and dive into God's word. And every other Wednesday, we have food. Like we provide food for the students to eat a meal. And if you guys know anything, that the conversations happen over a meal.
Absolutely.
Life happens, hanging out happens over a meal. And we get to provide that for our students. So that's every other Wednesday we get to do that. Man, looking towards camp, which is kind of our big thing, right? It's our big budget item that provides so much value. We yearly go off to camp for a week, and these students get a dedicated week to focus on God, to focus on their walks with Him, and get to just get away for a little time. These are moments where, man, life change happens. We've seen salvations happen at D Now, at camp, but we've seen countless other decisions made for students to walk out of what God has called them to do. And that happens because of you guys give.
Yep.
We can't do camp without you guys.
You could, but it would cost students
A lot.
a whole heck of
A
a lot
lot.
of money.
This past year, we got to take a bus.
Big time.
It wasn't just like we wanted to take a bus. The growth in our student ministry has been crazy, and we needed a bus.
Yeah.
The luggage no longer fits in the truck of my bed, or the bed of my truck.
Yeah.
We had to have a bus this year, and it was incredible. And we got to do that, and it was a ton of fun. But just know that all of this only happens because of y'all, and that's how y'all partner. You might not be here on a Wednesday, you may not be at a D Now event, you may not be at camp, but you are just as much a part of student ministry if you partner with us.
Yeah. No, I love it because, man, whether you're a baby, toddler, preschool, elementary, fixing to come into student ministry, the cool thing about it is all of this is working seamlessly together, right? Like our faithfulness in partnering, and it is serving. It's being there and volunteering and serving these kids, partnering to love these kiddos. These are all things that they get to look forward to. They get to look forward to SummerSlam. They get to look forward to and meeting upstairs and having a good time and worship and dancing around, and like those are all really exciting things. And so it's cool to see God's faithfulness growing through all of this, or not His faithfulness, but just God's hand through all of it. In our faithfulness, we get to watch that, and so some really cool pieces as we do that. So Caleb, Sunday mornings, man, it really so much more than just Sunday mornings in what you're a part of. But man, what's God doing ministry wise? How is He challenging you? How is faithfulness and partnership really critical to what you do?
Yeah, man, it's so easy because I can agree and echo with everything you guys have both said. But I think like what's so important to remember and to know is like we have all this stuff that we get really accustomed to seeing and participating in. Like when we walk in on a Sunday morning, there's so much stuff there, signs, cables, coffee, all this stuff that's happening. And it's so easy for us to just kind of act or think as if that just shows up. Like it's just there, and it's like, and it's not. That's not the case. I mean, like the fact that we have there's so much stuff that goes into making a Sunday morning function like it does. That we can make a place, that's conducive for people to enjoy and to worship God and to be part and enjoy community together. Like it's all that stuff doesn't just show up. It's because of your faithful giving and your faithful service to help set set it up, all these things, right? So, no, I mean, partnership is everything. Like I love your analogy of the house, man. Like if we view our church like a house, your groceries don't just show up one day. Like someone's paying for them, someone's picking them up, someone's prepping them, someone's putting them in a pan and cooking them, someone's serving them. So it's like, that's what happens. Like, because if we really believe that this is a family, so I love all that.
Together. Absolutely.
Yes, like our Sunday morning spaces, man. Like as your worship pastor, like I'm so passionate about that, and I love what it is, and I love what it can be, and as God stretches us and grows us, but we're all in this together. Nothing just happens. So I think I just wanted to start with that.
Absolutely.
So no, I agree. And then I think in general, like we're talking about things in 2024 that we want to, grow or stretch in, but also I want us to like come back to like a little bit of a reminder that no matter what, we're leading into or walking into, like there's some things that are never going to change. And that main thing is at the end of the day, every time we gather together, everything we do as a church, our goal and our hope and our mind and our aim is that we want to put all eyes and attention to Jesus. We want to set up a place that people that can worship. And I think what's important is we want to set an environment that's conducive for that. Sure. So that's why we have TVs with lyrics. It's why we have a sound system that people can hear. It's why we have a band that takes excellence seriously, so we can do that distraction free, etc. So all that stuff's happening together. But just for like a few things that are really exciting that I feel like God's really pushing us in and challenging us in 2024, I wanted to share with you. Number one is just like our church, our worship and music and media team is growing, and with growth comes growing pains, and that means more stuff to accommodate, more equipment to accommodate, more cables to accommodate. So like just this past year, over like 3 months, we're in January now, but just over like the end of last year, end of this year, we've picked up 3 new singers, and we've also picked up re-picked up a new keyboard player. Shout out to Tiffany. So like we're already seeing that growth, and we anticipate, and we hope and pray for more as we go through this year. And so like people, like when we bring people into that and the ministry grows, like we have to accommodate that, and so that takes resources and finances. So like just overarching, that's happening. Like we're growing and expanding, so and we need to accommodate that. That's really cool. It's really exciting. Number two, that we want to continue evaluating and improving our Sunday morning services and experiences as a whole. We always want to be going through with a comb, and how can we make this better? How can we make sure we're recentering on what we talked about earlier, making sure our aim stays there. And one of the specific ways that we feel like God's kind of even right now just pushing us and challenging us in is to improve and upgrade some of the lighting situations that we have. So we want to make it to where Dustin has an easier time seeing and reading. If you ever notice, he'll hit the little side thing with his Bible to read. Yeah, so that's one of the things for this year that we're going to invest some financial resources in upgrading our lighting. So it's a better experience for Dustin to be able to teach from, for people to see from. All of our cameras that capture our sermons that go online, the lighting helps that. It also, in general, it's not even just practical thing. There's also lighting plays such an important role in like unifying a space and setting an environment and allowing us to be intentional with every movement of a service, right? Like whether it's a prayer time or a time of song, or if it's a reflection or teaching, like our lighting helps shift that and make a room unite and kind of all be in it together. So that's one of the.
That sounds like something that we would never.
You never think about that. Yeah, that's what I thought was really worthwhile to.
And I want to state this, and I don't want to interrupt, but like our videos that we put on YouTube, they're working. Yeah. I talked with a guy just the other day whose daughter watches these from afar, and I got to talk with her, and she was like, "Man, these are so good for me, right?" And she's not the only one. Like, there's a lot of people who come watch these videos before they even step 100%. Foot into Vantage Point Church, and so. Like quality is important. People want to see those kind of things, and so not that it's everything. And I love that you said that it's not everything. Lights aren't everything. Sounds not everything, but when we're doing what we're doing, they're important factors.
No, 100%. Like I love that. It's almost like this window for people to come in and see. Okay, so this is what Vantage Point's like.
Yeah, catch a glimpse of it.
Yeah, it's like a little window. So we obviously want to do that, but we want to do everything we do with excellence because God deserves that. But we also just want to make sure we're grounded too. So no, honestly, you saying that window piece is a perfect transition to the next part that I feel like I know He's challenging us in this, and I see it right now. Is God's really pushing us into cultivating a ground that allows us to capture the uniqueness of VP and share that to people outside of our walls. A lot of that being with the world we live in is our online presence, right? And so that's something we're really stretching in this year. And we actually brought on a brand new staff member from right inside of our house to help us facilitate that on like a ground level new position, Mr. Parker Hurst. You guys know him. If you see him, just give him a pat on the back so you're glad that he's a part of the team.
He's behind me.
Yeah, he's actually right there. I'm looking at him. But no, we're bringing him on. You're going to see him with a camera a lot more than you may have before, and he's just going to kind of help us, spearhead that and capturing video and photos so that people can, like I said, is capturing what is unique about Vantage Point. What is Vantage Point doing?
Stories.
Yeah, exactly. You're capturing stories of people and how their vantage point has shifted, coming back to that, like, how do we get people to understand, like, our vantage point from the point of Christ, it's everything, and it means everything. So that's one of the specific things we're expanding this year. So the resources are going into bringing him onto the team. So we're really excited about what that is, what that's going to do. The last one, to be honest with you, it's kind of scary to talk about. It is kind of one of those things, like, once it comes out, it's out, so we could just let it happen right now. And to be honest, there's a lot of uncertainty and like specifics and details that are still TBD. Yeah. But I wanted to bring you guys in on this. So, and we really believe that God has done something so cool and so unique inside of our music ministry and our team, and the songs that are coming out of our house, and the songs that we get to sing, and the sound that is unique to VP every Sunday morning. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, and we really want to make that an accessible thing outside of just Sunday morning for 30 minutes. Yeah. We want our people and our families and beyond, just come back to that window thing earlier. Like, we want that to be accessible for people to be able to participate with the songs we sing at church on Monday morning on the way to work. Yeah. And so what that means is what we really want to do is we want to find a way to capture and record some of the songs that are unique to us, and produce them, mix them, and then put them out so you guys and your families and beyond can listen and participate in what God's doing in the music ministry of VP. Like I said, when, how exactly, yeah, we're figuring that out this year, but that's just something I feel like that's pressing on our hearts this year to kind of start just trudging down that path. And so that's going to take resources, and it's going to take, it's going to take big resources. It's going to take large investments and stuff, but we believe that we believe that it's worth it. And I would venture to say a lot of you would probably agree with that. So that's one of the big things on the horizon that we're going to kind of see how it fleshes out. But I couldn't be more excited about it, and we know there's value in it, and we want our people just to further unify throughout the week. And I think songs and will help do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I even challenge kind of all of us with is dream big, have fun. Like, it's easy to get kind of stale and stagnant in how we think, and just church is normal. And we need to be able to think big. Like, our elders thinking big, like staff, leadership, you guys thinking big, and we want to do that because we have a big guy that's going to challenge us with big things so that we can do big things. So, yeah. You got anything else?
No, I mean, that was kind of like my big points there. But just in general, like, because I was thinking and praying through this before we shot this, and all those things are so awesome, and I know and believe that God's stirring that in our hearts, and same thing with both of you guys in our other ministries, but. I think what's really cool to remember as well is, like, as we're kind of like coming out of this, all these things that God's pulled in and stirred up in our hearts and stuff that we shared with you, it's like it would be foolish for us to think that there's not even more that God's in 2 months from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now, that God's going to bring in newness. And so, like, I want to go into this year with an expectancy of, like, oh, that stuff's awesome, but what else is God going to do? Yeah. Like, it doesn't stop here.
We're not tied.
Yeah.
We don't need to be tied down.
Exactly.
Specific.
So I'm just right, and so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this year, and I'm excited about all of these things. Tremendously excited, and I'm expectant, but I'm also hopeful and expectant that God's going to do even more than what we're talking here. So absolutely,
and like I said, man, there's people that are stewarding the finances here of your faithfulness, and that couldn't make it here, aren't here, working, doing other things. I just wanted to speak to a few of those things. But, like, man, we get to continue to do life groups. Don Finley's kind of helping us spearhead that kind of thing. And so, man, his budget is not as big as some of these other ones, but what he gets to do with that is he gets to invest in leaders, and he gets to host meetings, he gets to feed you at times, whether it's books that he buys. Like those are things that most of you don't even get to see, but some of our life group leaders, you get to be a part of that. Listen, here's the deal, man. Your faithfulness, your partnership with Vantage Point is what allows us to even meet on a Sunday morning in this space that we are in. It is going to be what gets us to the next space that we're going to be in, whatever that is, whenever that is. That's going to be faithfulness across the board. Like we don't have necessarily investors that are like, all right, hey, let's do this. Like we are the investors of that, and I think that's important for us to understand. But like it's the little things that, like our women's ministry and the retreats that they get to do, our men's ministry and the opportunities that they have to speak into one another. Just the coffee on Sunday mornings, right? Like we do that through an organization where they take that money and it actually impacts kids in some other countries. So even that, like your faithfulness is buying coffee, but it's also impacting the world as you drink a cup of coffee. So and being able to do door hangers, being able to do some really cool events on Fifth Sundays, our Together Sundays, whether it's bringing in stuff for the kids or having food or taquitos or whatever it may be. Like those are all things that we don't think about. They just happen. They just, like you said, they just kind of show up sometimes. But man, they show up because of our faithfulness, and it's ours, right? Like we're all giving to this, right? Like I don't know that we ever really say this much, but sometimes it's like you guys are giving and the pastors are just spending. But I need you to know that, man, part of being on staff is like we give. Like that is part of what we do. We know that that's our responsibility to do that. And so we want you to know that you're not doing this for us. Man, we're all a part of this together. And so, man, there's so many other components in the operational budget. Y'all, this is not even considered like our missions giving. It's not even considering like our building fund. Man, that's going to be talked about this year coming up. And so there'll be something else that'll come up about each of those. But we wanted to start with just this simple piece, this piece of it. I'm going to give you some of the stuff that I'm not the greatest at. And so I've had people that kind of helped pad this for me to give me some information. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not an Excel guy. Kevin Cheshire is, and he's kind of helps us with our finances here. And so he gave me some really cool information. The cool thing about it is man, your faithfulness has allowed us to grow from 2020, man, to 2023. We've seen an increase from 214,000 to 220,000. 2022 was 231,000. Last year's budget was 292,000. This year's budget, we're looking at it being about $303,000, and that sounds like a lot. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot to some of you, but that's a lot of money to me, right? But $303,000 is what we're looking at going, okay, hey, this is what it's going to take to kind of do the operational side of Vantage Point Church, the day-to-days, the week-to-weeks, the things that we are doing to make this thing work. And I'm gonna break this down even more so because I think this is important to know too. We're looking at needing to have to bring in about $25,000 a month to make that work. $25,000 on a weekly basis. That's about $6,000 a week that we're bringing in. Now, this is the coolest part to this whole deal. In order to accomplish that is about a 3.8% increase in what we're actually bringing in already. That's awesome. Because we could be looking at this and going, man, we are so upside down and lopsided, but because of your faithfulness, we're only looking at 3.8%. But here's the reality. Like, that's a drop in the bucket for what God can do. When we recognize, I'm gonna get preachy for just a second, right? I'm just going to get excited. When we recognize how good God is, and we recognize who we are because of that, and that we get to participate in what he's doing, and that he's provided for us the seed money and our finances and whatever that is, right? I mean, we come from all spectrums of what God has provided with us, but he's done that so that we get to be a part of things like this. And I'm going to tell you right now, God doesn't need a single one of us. He does not need one of us. But that's not an excuse for us. He wants us to be a part of his work. He wants us to experience the blessing of what it means to be partnered with him in this kingdom thing and watching and participating in what he is doing. So we get to be a part of every bit of this. So he wants us to do that. He doesn't need us. He wants us to be a part of that. And I think that's critical for you to understand. So one of the other cool things that Kevin told me that I want to just read to you real quick. In 2024, VPC will put more dollars into ministry than we've ever done that before. We've not increased in our in our personnel budget in crazy ways. So pretty much everything that is being given at this point in time is given to ministry. Our increase is given to ministry. So here's kind of the take home with this. What does this mean for us? What does this mean for you? I know some of you, if you've made it this long, thank you. I know some of you may have already turned it off, like, I don't want to hear this. But if you're here, man, I want you to hear what this means. It means for you. It means that we're willing and obedient to do whatever it is that God wants us to do. It's being submissive to the King and saying, God, how can I participate in what you're doing? And some of you may have never given in your life. You didn't grow up giving. Like this is a foreign matter to you. That's okay. If this is a scary thing to talk about, I get it completely. But what we can rest in is that this is what God has called us to do. He's called us to be faithful in our giving. He's called us to be faithful in our tithing and in our offerings. Like that is biblical. It's what we're supposed to do. It can be scary, but God is faithful. And when we do give, and this is not health and wealth, do not hear me say this, but there is a reciprocating process that when we're faithful, man, we get to experience God's faithfulness. And so, man, as we give, we need to understand that God's going to take care and provide for us, and provide for you, even in your situation. And so we want you to. I want you to. Not because I want more of your money. I mean, sure, we want to be able to do some really cool things, but I want this more for you, and you're experiencing, man, what God is going to do in you and through you, and how He's going to bless you. So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for maybe even you individually? And here's how I want us to be thinking. I want us to understand, and I said this earlier, I mean, God doesn't need our money, but He wants us to be a part of what He is doing. Giving can be a scary thing. And it may be that some of you have never given in your life. It's the scariest thing. You're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're thinking, man, you're asking for money, and like I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to pay bills. And that's not a foreign thing to think about, right? That is not something that God looks at us and goes, yeah, I just don't understand. But here's what we need to understand. For starters, God called us to do this. And God has given us everything that we need for life and godliness. He's given us our finances. He's given us everything that He has, like the money that you have. Like it's because of what God has done for you and in you. And part of that, you read this in 1 Corinthians 9, where he talks about, man, He has blessed us so that we get to be a blessing. And this is not health and wealth, right? This is not like, hey, let me give to God, and man, He's going to give me back all of this extra money above and beyond so that I can be these rich people. Like that is foolish to think that. But to know that God's going to take care of us, when we seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, man, everything is going to be taken care of for us. Like everything that we need is going to be provided for. Everything we need. The want's where we get in trouble, right? And so my challenge for us is to recognize that as partners in this church, like, we want you to come partner with us. We want you to be a part of the blessing of what it means to give to this church, so that we get to carry out the mission. That is what God's calling us to do, and we want you to be a part of that. We think that is important for you to do in participating with God and partnering with Him, partnering with us as we move forward in this. So here's on a very practical level what this means, right? Number one, I would sit down with your family, your spouse, and just go, hey, how do we get to do this? How are we going to partner with this? And it may be that God challenges you to give above and beyond what you've been given. It may be that God is challenging you just to get started. But it's sitting down and praying with your family, talking with your family, and then it's taking a step. It is moving in that and operating in God's faithfulness in this. And you can't see God's faithfulness unless you take steps in this. And so we want you to do that. And so we're going to give you some real easy ways to do that. In the description of this video, there's going to be a link to our giving platform. And it is a safe platform. It's secure, and that when you give through that, your information is not shared, so it's very protected from a planning center side of things. And so you click on that, and it's something that you can set up, and you can give one time, you can give monthly, give bi-monthly. Like there's different ways that you can set that up, but it's a real easy way to do that. And if you're still a check writer, like on Sunday mornings, we've got a box. It's over by the coffee bar, and we got some envelopes that are there. You can put it in that, and we've got our elders that pick that up, and they record all of that for us. And so some real easy ways that you can get plugged in and start partnering in this area right now. So listen, as we kind of draw this all to an end, right? It is obvious God is doing something. Mm-hmm. It is clear that God is working. Your elders are excited about what God is doing. And our prayer time this past Sunday was great as we were just praying for the church and just getting excited about it, watching God move as we talk as leaders and staff. I mean, God is working, and I don't want to miss anything. Like I want to be a part of as much of it as we can be a part of, and I want you to be a part of that as well. Listen, Vantage Point Church is not a church that you can just come and just sit on the pew and get the fullness of who we are. Mm-hmm. We have to be a part of it. We've got to be in the workings of what God is doing, partnering at multiple levels, right? And some of you partner at multiple levels. You're serving in welcome, you're serving in kids, sometimes on the same day. I don't understand how that works, but you're in worship, and you're everywhere, set up, tear down. Like we want this church to be a church that we go, man, we're a family. We're a family, and we're in this together. So, all being said, thank you for your faithfulness even up to this point. Thank you for your faithfulness and even getting us to this point where we can have this conversation today. It's crazy. 11 years these are some great conversations to be having right now. Continue to be faithful. Step in, step up. Let's watch God do really, really mighty things in 2024 that will exceed above and beyond our expectations and our anticipations. And so I'm ready for that. So we're praying for you. If you have questions, come talk to us, right? If you need help thinking through what it means to give, then come talk to us, right? Because we've been probably where you are, and we'd love to kind of walk you through kind of how we walked through that ourselves. And so we love you. Let's just keep moving, church. We're having a lot of fun. Let's keep doing it.